Welcome to Resistance Chronicle. I'm Matt.
I'm Eric.
And today we had a very special guest on, Charlie Robinson. He's author of The Octopus of Global Control, also co-author with Jeff Berwick on the controlled demolition of the American Empire, and probably one of the GOATs in the alternative media community.
Also has a podcast, Macroaggressions, and he is co-founder of Union of the Unwanted.
And we had an awesome conversation. It lasted well over an hour and 15 minutes, more than I anticipated. He gets into NGOs. We cover a little bit of everything that's kind of screwed up about what's going on in today's society.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. Here's our awesome intro.
It's not a political statement. It's a patriotic duty.
And the editors of great newspapers, such as yours, owe a common obligation to the people.
But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream.
What are you people? On dope?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Movement, right? There's a lot of people relocating out there.
It still is, man. And
is it?
And it's actually ramping back up now that, the Crypto 6 is getting a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
Pork Fest is coming up in June. Actually,
right.
Next month, what we want to do is book all libertarian guests and just kind of promote Pork Fest and get after it like that. So that'd be pretty fun. So I don't know really who we're going to reach out to just yet. But there's a short list of people that we really want to get on the show and do that with. Yeah.
Well, let me know if I can help you guys in any way. If there's anybody on the list that maybe I recognize or know, then
that'd be awesome. Yeah. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
So we started recording, and we kind of just do this completely unscripted. I have a couple of notes of talking points that maybe we can hit some stuff with. That's
how I do it.
I just get the gab, man. So I think we're just gonna have a good time with this. We'll see where it goes.
Cool. I'm good to go and whatever.
So I wanted to start with what the hell's up with your state, man, Colorado. All the nutty shit happens in Colorado. What's going on? John Benet Ramsey. I started getting into Adolf Kors in his disappearance and killing and unreal. It's like the MK Ultra capital of the United States, I think.
Isn't Denver Airport have like a bunch of like Illuminati shit?
Yeah. Oh, it's the weirdest place ever. It's like, so the Denver Airport, if you're just traveling through it, you'll never see any of the stuff. But if you are leaving from there, then on your way in, there's a big blue horse.
Yes.
With big red glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And it is not for the Broncos. It's not Broncos mascot or anything like that. It's kind of like in the similar blue color, but it's not. And the sculptor that made it was killed by it. It fell on him.
I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the nickname for it is Blucifer. That's what everyone calls it. Even the people on the news call it that too. But then when you go in the airport, there's if you know the right place to go, right by this bathroom, there's a plaque. It's sitting on like a 3-foot high pedestal, and it's like a big stone piece, and it's kind of like a tombstone or like a gravestone, and it's all engraved in there, and it says dedicated to the opening of the airport in 1994 and everything by the New World Airport Commission. And everyone's like, what is that? It doesn't exist. And then there's like a Freemason sign on it, like in carved the Freemason logos and everything. I was like, this is just straight up, insanity. Then you go around where the baggage claim is, and there's 4 different murals. I think they've taken 2 of them down. They're renovating the whole place. So, but the murals are like a dystopian hellscape. Like a guy, like a Nazi soldier wearing a full gas mask with holding a sword, swinging a sword, and there's all these dead kids everywhere. And you're like, who the fuck thought this was a good idea to have an airport? People are like jittery, before they get on their plane. Then they see that, and I mean, and there's a bunch of them, and you're like, okay. It's weird. So I've taken pictures of all of them. I mean, the pictures are out there. It's pretty well known. And then there's lots of questions about, what's going on underground too. But even even the airport people themselves have a pretty good sense of humor about it, because they're renovating it right now, and they have some of the areas blocked off with just like, like plywood, nice plywood and everything. But on that plywood, they have like an ad campaign, and it says like, we're expanding. What are our reasons for expanding? A, we want to get, more room for the lizard people. B, to expand the subterranean bunkers. C, building new and exciting shops for you. And there's a picture, and then the thing next to it is like a picture of a gigantic lizard person.
So they're good sports about it, or they just don't care that
I think they're just embracing it. I think they're just having some fun trolling us a little bit, because it's sort of a known thing. I don't know. Maybe the marketing director has a good sense of humor or something like that. But it's definitely, I haven't had anything weird happen there. But you see those things and you go, okay, that's not normal. So yeah, this is not my state. This is my wife's state. I am here because of her. So I like it, but it's not my home state. So any of the false flag garbage that's going on or the weird killing. Actually, the thing is, I drive by Columbine every day. Like if I drive to drop my daughter off at school, I drive right by the street where it is. And that was like a real shooting. That was like back when mass shootings were authentic and not either not staged or not made to happen or not politicized or anything. It was just a flat out crappy, event. So we've got that. And then we've got the JonBenet Ramsey thing that you mentioned. And I never even gave that much thought, because I just assumed it was some, I don't know, either her dad or some, I don't know. I actually always assumed it was her dad. But then you go and find out that his background, where he worked in like military intelligence, and he had all these really dark connections. You're like, holy shit. And like the whole crime scene doesn't make any sense. And you start thinking, wow, this is there's more to it. So yeah, this is a hotbed for strange activity.
Yeah, even the Coors one, I'm fascinated by. It's the guy that killed him. His last name Corbett. I forgot his first name. It's either Joe or John. He spent a bunch of time in prison in California, escaped from the California prison, and I think it was like 1951, made his way out to Colorado, and he was in that prison for murdering someone, and then all of a sudden got this idea to, hey, I'm gonna kidnap a beer baron and murder him, and then escape to Canada. It's just such a bizarre story, and nobody could find him, and it's unreal, man.
They never found him.
Well, they found Coors, yeah. They found him, yeah. But it's a bizarre story, yeah. Unreal.
And there was also there's a thing that really started the hatred, the public hatred towards the Rockefeller family happened here too, not too far from where I am. In like the late 1800s, I think the Rockefellers owned this mine, and a lot of the workers, they all kind of lived right by the mine. They set up like I don't know, like in those days, they'd set up like almost like their own little city right outside of there, and they all worked in the mine, and they were on strike or protesting or something. And they ordered the people to start shooting. They just said, just shoot the protesters, and then burn down the place. And they killed a bunch of women and children. I mean, it was horrible. It wasn't the Rockefellers doing it, but it was the management of the mine that they owned. And so they took a ton of heat for it. And then that led them to start the Rockefeller Foundation as a reason to sort of an attempt to rehabilitate their image, because they were thought of as such reprehensible monsters, which of course they were and still are. But that kind of got them put on the map as like evil oligarchs, and that of course happened here in Colorado as well. Yeah, so
and then start the philanthropy, hand out the dimes, and everybody loves you, and now your ancestors are in seats of government today.
Yeah, it's just like who else learned how to do that? Oh, Bill Gates with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, after they go through the antitrust situation where the government tries to break them up or thinks about breaking them up, and then they start this charitable foundation to be philanthropists, and then go do all this stuff. Meanwhile, it's just a gigantic tax shelter. We can't talk about that, right?
One thing you did for me since I started listening to your podcast, it was like sometime last summer, I think, when it first started coming out, right? You opened my eyes to these NGOs. Can you get into some of that with us for a little bit? And let's talk about like I've heard you talk about the International Bank of Settlements and then you get into, obviously the Federal Reserve, but then the World Economic Forum, and what is up with all these giant think tanks?
I know, it's funny because it's been kind of disappointing when I have to like go back and kind of unlearn the things that I had learned before. Like I always assumed that these charities were up, all on the up and up and everything. And it never occurred to me that there was a bunch of nefarious things happen. Like the United Way, their CEO just got charged with like 27 felonies or something like that. I mean, they're a disaster. And then you start to realize that some of these NGO stands for non-governmental organization, for those that don't know. And it basically what it is it's like, it's kind of a charity. It's kind of a company. It's definitely not government, but it might have government ties, So like a guy like Dick Cheney has like 49 NGOs that he owns or runs. And George Shultz, guys like that, people that were in the Reagan administration. There's a long list. You go through. I mean, Donald Rumsfeld runs like 25 different NGOs. I mean, it's a way for them to give themselves almost like an LLC, a limited liability company. You add an extra layer of protection, or you take all your money and you put it in this NGO and through some special tax status. And then it's like, oh, it's not my money. It's its money. And and it's a charity, so you can't tax it. So anyway, there's a whole lot of reasons why people would start them. But what you wind up finding out, and there were like, there's 10 million NGOs that in existence. And I think 2 million of them are just in the United States. So it's not like a rare thing. Some are bigger than others, but it allows these people to run their organizations and keep their, use these NGOs to do some of the bidding that the government wants done, but can't be seen to be doing themselves. So they outsource it sort of. And so you see organizations that are disguised as charities, but are anything but charities. A lot of the child trafficking networks are set up under child charities, because then they have the reason to exist and a reason to interact with children because they're a charity looking out for them. Meanwhile, what's going on behind the scenes is that a segment of them are being trafficked too. So it's like, like when you learn this stuff, you just feel gross inside and you just feel like, I mean, is everybody scamming us? Is everybody trying to screw this world up? And it's not to say that they're all bad, of course, but it's the ones like, these like Bill Gates starts his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, that is a prime example of a dangerous enterprise that has given out billions and billions and billions of dollars to some of the weirdest and worst people in the world. I mean, his relationship with Epstein is well known now. The relationship that the Gates Foundation has with the media, they have been bribing the media for many years to many hundreds of outlets. It's literally in the 300s, the number of outlets that the Gates Foundation gives money to just inside the media. All the pharmaceutical companies have gotten money from him. So, it creates this really weird situation where if you're doing something and you need charity money, you love that the money's coming, but you get the feeling with the Gates Foundation, and maybe more than just a feeling, that there's strings attached to it, and so the NGOs give people and they give governments the ability to camouflage themselves and go into situations sometimes look like as charities or saviors, and meanwhile what they're doing is they're setting up, the way, like as an example, they'll bomb the shit out of Yugoslavia and then send in NGOs to sort out all the stuff. And then it gets privatized and broken up into all these little segments. And guess who starts running them? The people that are running the NGOs. So this is
like Haiti. Would that be kind of like what happened in Haiti?
It'd be exactly like what happened in Haiti. Yeah. That's probably the best example of that.
Or exactly what's happening in Myanmar right now.
Right, exactly.
It's a global initiative.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so the Clinton Foundation, I think the Gates Foundation is taking the heat the last year and a half, as they should. But let's not forget about the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative. Funny, the Clinton Global Initiative shut its doors the day after Hillary Clinton didn't win the election. I mean, I guess they solved all the problems out there, that that they don't need any more money. Funny how that happened. Literally the next day. So that's an influence peddling racket. We know that. And the Clinton Foundation is a money laundering operation, one of the biggest ones in the world. And they run all sorts of things through that foundation. And that is a who's who of criminals and villains. And what's worse is like what they did in Haiti. You take the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere that just got hit by a massive earthquake, cuts all their supply chains, cuts what's left of their communication. Running water, if there was any, is not happening anymore. And the world, to their credit, starts throwing money at them. Individuals, you just donate here, the telethons and all that, and people felt really bad. And they were very generous. And that money flowed through the Clintons, through the Clinton Foundation. He ran point on that. And that money didn't get to Haiti. It might have gone through Haiti, straight out to the Cayman Islands, but it did not build houses. It did not end poverty. It sprinkled a little bit of money around to some of the politicians and bigwigs and people that needed it. But what was happening in the wake of that was that Laura Silsby, an employee of the Clinton Foundation, was arrested trying to steal 33 children out of Haiti. She was jailed in Haiti for 6 months until Bill Clinton personally got on an airplane, went there himself and got her out, relocated her back to the United States, where she promptly took a job with the Amber Alert system, which notifies you when missing kids happen throughout the country. That's the level of criminality that we're working with here when you talk about these people.
Still in shambles anyway from the earthquake.
Yeah. It's
where'd all this money go? Like nobody ever asked questions.
Nope, they're on to the next thing, man. It's like, hey, tonight, what did Kim Kardashian say? And there goes Haiti. But it's still it's still in need. And such amazing people that certainly don't deserve that, and the bad luck. And then you've Pat Robertson saying that they signed a pact with the devil, and that's the reason why the earthquake came. I'm just like, oh, it's, but people like the Clintons, these psychopaths. And if people want to get more information on the Clinton Foundation, I would suggest they go to Crowdsource The Truth and find 200 episodes, 200 plus episodes, each episode about 2 hours, each episode on the Clinton Foundation that Charles Artel and Jason Goodman have done.
What is it? Crowdsource?
Crowdsource The Truth. Yeah, it's on YouTube, and they keep getting strikes and things like that. But it's Jason Goodman and Charles Ortel have done this. And Charles Ortel is like an investment banker who just had a lot of experience with charity fraud and things like that. And they just pick it apart. It is. Charles Ortel calls it the largest criminal enterprise on the planet. That's saying something, because we've got the Vatican too, and we know what they're up to. So it's just that when you've got these operations, you've got these, like the Clinton Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, boy, they just put this face on like they're out there helping the world. And then what it does is it makes it so that it's way more difficult for you to feel comfortable criticizing them, because it's like, how dare you say something bad about that charity? And it's like, well, it's not a charity, but it looks like a charity. So it gives itself this cover. And of course, with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation lately, depending on how you feel about vaccines, that's how you view the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Either you see them as this altruistic charity going around the world saving humanity, or you see them as the operation that gave 496,000 kids in India polio.
Now, are they connected to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine too?
Yeah, well, they finance all of them.
Yeah,
they've given money to all of them. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer. And everybody has received money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's the first thing that happens. So it automatically puts you in a weird situation where you have a hard time speaking badly or, about the person that's giving you all this money. And it's not a little bit of money either. It's billions of dollars. So it makes it really tough for them to say anything. But that's an operation that is out there using the Rockefeller Foundation playbook of get this thing, finance it with a little bit of money, make sure it does some good. You got to go do some good things, and then just use it to just hide all your money there so it doesn't get taxed, and then just use it to fulfill the agenda that has been given to you. More likely for Bill Gates, I believe he has an agenda that he has been given. I don't know that it's necessarily as organic as him just wanting to be the vaccine guy. I think it might be part of his deal. I think that he was allowed to come to power, allowed to be in this situation, because if you research his history and how Microsoft got started, there's a lot of questions about that.
And then his family history too. His dad is, that's well known. There's images out there of what he was doing with Margaret Sanger. It's crazy. Yeah, it's all ties. It's all this one big gigantic spider web. Do you get into all this in your first book? Global Control.
Yeah,
I haven't started that yet. I'm waiting for my glasses to come in. I wasn't expecting the font to be that small, man.
It is the one regret I have about the book. If I could do it over, well, actually, there's a Barnes and Noble version, and that's the one I buy. And for whatever reason, the font came out fine and it looks great. The Amazon one, I wish that font was bigger, man. It really kills me. And by the way, since I started, in the lockdown, the one major thing that's changed is that I had to get like reading glasses because I noticed my eyes were starting to go, and so I feel bad about the book font. The Octopus font is a little on the small side, but the content, if you can get a good set of glasses, the content is easy to digest, because the way I did it was I added all these quotes from over 500 different people that had interesting takes or were involved in some important situations throughout our history. So you'll get like Rothschilds and Rockefellers and Clintons and Bushes and all that stuff, but you also get Bill Hicks and George Carlin and Joe Rogan and guys like that talking about events and things that they see, but from a comics perspective. So all that is peppered throughout the book. So it's easy to read, even though it's like this thick. And it kind of explains a lot of it. It explains a lot of what we're experiencing today, sort of the power structure and how it works. Because one of the tentacles I get into is scientific, and what you see is that, and I think what we've all been experiencing over the last year is that, just calling it science, that's a pretty broad term. I mean, there's good science and there's bot science. And what we're seeing is bot science. And everyone's just saying, no, trust the science. And we're saying, no, this is junk science. This is the sort of science you get when you have scientists accepting grant money from people and then saying, write something nice about this. It's totally corrupted, and yet we're being told to believe that this is all very normal. So I think that if someone read the Octopus book, they would have. I don't go too deep in any one topic, but I cover like 50 different topics. So it gives you an idea of just how widespread all of this insanity is, and then it gives you enough information to maybe get you interested in it. and then you can go off and like specialize in something, you know, because I really wanted to cover as much ground as I could, so that because you never know what one topic is going to wake somebody up, you know. They're going to be like, oh man, you know, I had no idea about the Gulf of Tonkin, you know, for starting Vietnam, and like, oh, my uncle died in Vietnam. Holy shit, I didn't know anything about this. And so if you get them interested in just one, and I go, hey, look, I got 49 others.
All the other doors open, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
You like Vietnam? Let's talk. You want to talk about? Let's talk about World War. Let's talk about Iraq. Let's talk about Afghanistan. It's like, oh, you know, because that's how we all get into it, right? I mean, you start in some topic and you kind of geek out, and you're like, whoa, holy shit, I didn't know anything about this, and then it kind of leads you down that path, or at least opens you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong, and that is like this journey that we all kind of go through if we're interested in digging into the truth. And so that's why I wrote that book, was because I was just hoping it would be a nice sort of introduction to a lot of people. And I'm a savage in there too. I talk so much shit, and I go after these people, you know what I mean? And so, and I think people liked that. I think they connected with that, because they were like, I was thinking the same thing, or yeah, fuck that guy, you know, because we all kind of want to say it, and you're reading like this professional book, and you don't expect me to imply that I believe Lindsey Graham owns multiple black dildos. I put it in the book because
I always would tell him that him and Mitch McConnell got something going on. I'm sure of it. Rusty trombone or something.
Well, I mean, Lindsey Graham is known. Everybody in Washington knows that. So, you know, but I like to have some fun. And also, I think one of the things about that Octopus book that I think you'll appreciate is that I put as much humor in it as I could, because, you know, the topics are dark, and you're learning about, or it might be the first time you're reading things about the government that you don't really love hearing. And so it can be kind of a dark book. So I had to put as much funny components in there as I could. And part of that is me just talking shit to these guys, you know, so it keeps you hanging in there a little bit longer, so that you can get through the heavy stuff, because it's important. You know, it's important to kind of process this information. And I subscribe to the Joe Rogan philosophy on this, and I put this quote in the book. He was saying, I liked when Jon Stewart did The Daily Show, because I could tell where the jokes were. I didn't need somebody to explain, you know, that he was embellishing or making fun of certain things. He was like, I got the jokes. The jokes were always really good, but I also learned about the news too. I also was getting an education on the news, but it was being delivered to me in a way that I liked, which was, you know, wrapped like in a joke, or, you know, making fun of it and things like that. And when I heard him say that, it occurred to me that I liked that too. And so I thought, if I could write it in a way that made it sort of like, I'm not trying to say I'm Jon Stewart in any way, but made it sort of feel like the Daily Show, where you would just point out how preposterous things were. Actually, as a funny connection to that, the cover of the book, the cover of the Octopus book, which is this, you know, a big, I changed the coloring on it. It was normally a yellow octopus. Jon Stewart actually did a whole segment on that logo, because that logo is from a rocket that the National Reconnaissance Office launched, NROL-39. And what that octopus, it's the octopus cartoon, it's over the world. Mm-hmm. And what it says on the rocket, written above it and below it, is nothing is beyond our reach. And it was sent up by the NRO, which is like one of our spy agencies. And Jon Stewart was like, holy shit, like, look at this, you know? And I remember seeing that, and I was like, that's the octopus I'm going to use. I'm going to use that for the cover. I'm going to change it up a little bit, but it comes from that spy satellite.
We're looking at it on the other screen here now. Yeah. It's such a perfect way to represent it too. The octopus with the tentacles, and who's at the head of this whole thing?
That's the real question: is who is at the head?
It's the big question because, depending on who you ask, they've all got different answers. If someone will say like the black nobility and and the Jesuits or something, I have of the belief it is the international bankers in these international banking families that run it.
Yeah.
But it's not to dismiss the other claims, because everybody's got their role, and so is the Vatican involved? I mean, absolutely. Is who's how that hierarchy really shuffles out, it gets a bit murky, to be fair, but it is quite clear that there is a network. I think best shown in movies, in the James Bond movie Spectre. That's kind of a good representation of this. It's they don't all have to have the big meetings together necessarily. They know what's in their best interest. They know how to manipulate things to make it work best for them. And it's coordinated though, but there is coordination at some level, because these things, like what we experienced in 2020, everyone acts like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. Well, really? We have Event 201 6 months before it, where, once again, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Johns Hopkins Medical Center, and the World Economic Forum ran a simulation simulating the outbreak of a novel coronavirus that starts in Brazil, in this case, goes to China, and then from China spreads all over the world, killing 65 million people over 18 months. And the only way it stopped is with a vaccine. They role play that October of 2019.
3 hours of videos out there for everybody to see.
Yeah. You can see it.
It's all on.
We're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy analysts. This is a conspiracy right in front of our eyes.
People still say you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, I'm showing you the truth is right here. Like, I'm not making it up.
One big conspiracy. So
I know
here's the next one, in my opinion, right? So we got this death that happened today with Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
88. He said he wanted to come back as a virus. The next round of coronavirus, whatever it's going to be, watch the name. I guarantee you, and I'm saying it now, it's going to be named after him somehow. It's going to be like a PP, whatever.
You know what? I would not bet against you, because it's just like them to do that too. To rub it in your face, because I give them a little credit. Because they troll us, and I can appreciate a good trolling, but they're such evil motherfuckers, and it's so frustrating, because you try to explain to somebody who has no understanding of this that the corona situation that happened in 2020 was planned years in advance, and they rightfully look at you like you're insane, because it's so hard to believe that. But there is so much evidence of that. There is the SPARS thing that's out now that's seeming very similar. You have Event 201. You have Anthony Fauci literally on camera in 2017 saying that the president is going to have a pandemic on his hand before the end of his first term. So Nostradamus, Fauci, they're just predicting things, right? Funny how that happened. So this is part of the octopus that we're talking about. It's the fact that there has to be coordination for something like this to happen, that people have to know well in advance. The media has to know, not everybody, of course, but just the people at the top that need to know in advance what's coming and what's going to happen. That requires a massive amount of coordination. So this is an interconnected network that is running this, and it's tough to accept that. Because you like to think of, oh, this is America, it's run by the people and everything. It's just not. It's run by the corporations, and it's run by a small group of very powerful people.
Meanwhile, they're all sitting there laughing at us while we got 2 masks on and a Q-tip up our asses,
Yeah.
Come on, and people not seeing through this bullshit is what I'm trying to figure out.
Because they watch the news. That's it.
It really is a brain. It's almost like MK Ultra went mainstream once TV came out, and they're like, "All right, we got this. Everybody, no more honeypot whorehouses. We're just gonna broadcast this shit right on TV."
You got it. And I think it would be important for people to know that Barack Obama in 2013, technically, when he signed the NDAA, wound up bringing into law the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, which legalized propaganda to be used inside the United States on Americans. So what they did is there used to be the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which was right after World War II. And it said, okay, in America, we can't use propaganda on other Americans. We can do it in other countries, and that's fine. But we just saw what propaganda does to a country, and meaning Germany, and we don't want propaganda to be used on our own people. That was 1948. And it was doing just fine. It wasn't expiring. There was nothing to it. But Obama changed that in 2012 to make it legal to use propaganda against Americans. So I ask the logical question: why would he legalize propaganda unless he intended to use some propaganda?
And look what's happened since then. All the school shootings. Yep.
This new Corona thing, which
Derek Chauvin, and here's another one that I'm saying here on the show with you on it. I don't think he's going to be convicted. I don't either. That's going to be the start of round 2, and it's going to be a 10-time worse summer from hell than it was last summer. We're right for it, man, and everyone's just sitting there with their 2 masks on. It's no big deal. And we got to get the vaccine to get back to normal. Driving up propaganda. Speaking of propaganda, I'm driving up Route 16, and I'm working up near the Lakes region in New Hampshire this week. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 giant billboards on the way up to where I was going that the state of New Hampshire took out. In big orange letters, it says, "This is your only shot to get back to normal." And it's an advertisement for the friggin' vaccine.
The governor was doing that, put up all his propaganda.
Our governor is fucking looped, man. He's been groomed for the position that he's in and moving on. His dad sits on the CFR. So that just goes to show you what kind of family upbringing this guy's had.
Well, that's another thing too, because people talk about like, well, who are all these networks and are these shadowy people? Okay, well, forget the shadowy people. Let's look at the people that are out in the broad daylight. Let's look at the Council on Foreign Relations. Let's look at the Bilderberg Group. Let's look at the Atlantic Council. I mean, who are these people and what are they doing? And why do they have such an oversized role in what happens in our country? And that's something that is undeniable that people can find. And if they don't want to go, full reptilian, you can start with like the Council on Foreign Relations, which has a website, and you can go there and there's 5,000 members. It's not like it's super exclusive or anything, but this is an organization that has a say in the media's policy and what gets talked about on your television and what doesn't. So who are these people and why are they dictating what we are told? And what is their agenda and and why are they all working together? And why are they starting to push, first it was Russia. Now it's China. I mean, what is going on? So you start to feel the influence, and people just assume that all the major news organizations just decided, independent of one another, to all talk about the same thing. No, they're being told what to talk about. That's not how it works.
Isn't it 5 corporations on all news?
Yeah.
And not only the 5 corporations that own all the news, there's 10 corporations, and this is what scares me the most. I'm a chef by trade. That's what I do for my day job when I'm not creating podcasts for Eric. And the thing that's scary is, not only is it 5 corporations that run all the media, it's only 10 corporations that control everything you friggin' eat. Anything that you put in your mouth is owned by 10 friggin' companies. If you go to the supermarket and you think you can choose between Oreos and Chips Ahoy, it's all the same friggin' company putting out the same crap. It's poisoning you.
Yeah. And bringing that back to Bill Gates, recently it's been in the news that he's been buying up as much farmland as he can. Well, that's acres. What's that?
240,000 acres or something to that number.
A lot, man. Yeah, he's making it. So he's doing that. Was at one point, I don't know if he still is, but he was at one point the largest individual shareholder of Monsanto. Monsanto makes GMO seeds. Okay. He also financed for $30 million the Svalbard Seed Vault in Norway, which stores millions and millions of real seeds far away in the Arctic Circle.
In a mountain, isn't it? Like
400 feet up a mountain and 300 feet in the mountain is where this is. All the real seeds.
Yeah.
But he's invested in farmland and GMOs. I mean, so he's up to controlling the food supply.
3D printed meat too, man. Don't forget about that.
And also Impossible Foods. Yeah, he's a backer of that, which is plant-based meat. And it has some serious issues. The Impossible Whopper has 18 million times more phytoestrogen in it than a regular Whopper.
Yep. That means all your little boys are going to be growing boobs.
Yeah. So that's it. It's not a diet food either. It only has 5% fewer calories. The only reason why I know this is because I did an episode on all this shit and on the seeds, and then also one on Bill Gates, and they obviously cross over. So
I caught the one on the seeds.
Yeah. It's just it's dangerous. It's dangerous to have this centralization. And I have been, starting to meet a lot of people from going to Acapulco the last couple of years. I've been starting to meet a lot of people that are in the decentralized movement. And I can really see the appeal of that, because when you centralize things, like you said, 10 companies that are controlling all the food, that's not good. You might think, oh, it's just easier that way. Well, it is. It's easier to poison it. It's easier to screw you on it. It's easier to jack up the prices on it. It's easier to control whether or not you actually get it or not. We need more operations, not 10. We need more smaller companies. We need more decentralization of the food supply and things like that. It's essential to us, because these guys, they show us what they can do. Same for the media. That this needs to be broken up. We've seen what happens when these maniacs get too much power. It always ends badly for us. So we should remember that and try and keep these things as decentralized as we can, because even though it might be slower or less efficient, it's better for us, because we'll have multiple choices and nobody will just be able to dominate. And because there's something weird that happens in their heads when they get a lot of power, they always tend to use it the wrong way. And so we have to just kind of be honest about that, I think, at least.
I'll go one step further than the decentralization. And I think we need to just start growing our own food, figuring out how to catch our own meats. He's going for a trapping class, trying to talk me into it. I'm down to do it. He hunts, I know
agree,
how to, grow vegetables, pickle can and all that. And I think, and there's some, I'm sure you've heard of freedom cells. I think we need to be involved in that,
right?
And just start teaching each other all that stuff. That's where I'm at right now, is screw it all,
You know what? You're so right about that. And I've seen the memes that say a lot of our problems would go away if our yards looked like this instead of this. The other one was like a manicured green. The other one, the other image was like a full garden out there. And we've got to get back to that. And we should get back to that. And that is, and I work in real estate. That's my job. And I worked for builders for a long, long time, big builders. And so you understand how like the CC&Rs are for certain communities and how they take control and dictate what you can and can't do. You can't plant in Las Vegas, where I worked for many years. You couldn't even plant grass in your front yard. That was a whole citywide thing. So like they had total control over what you could and couldn't do with your house. Mm-hmm. And though I understand the reasons for that, they were dealing with a massive drought. It still is a bit, we sort of need to get back to being a little bit more self-sufficient. If 2020 taught us anything, it was that the supply chain can break down pretty fast. And we saw it just with toilet paper, which kind of felt like a dress rehearsal, just toilet paper. It's like, oh, you guys were fighting each other for toilet paper. wait till the food runs out.
Right.
We're about to see something like that again too. I think with this.
I think so too.
Suez, it's going to happen sooner than later. I don't think we've seen the repercussions yet. See the video of all the ships that
were stuck. Yeah.
In that,
don't you get the feeling that they're like trying to that they're testing these things on us? They're testing, they're testing the supply chain breakdown with toilet paper. Oh, well, that really freaked them out. Maybe we should do that with lumber or something. They'll invent some new thing. I feel like there's going to be a supply chain shortage of something.
With the lumber, they'll just keep burning forests down and say it was caused by gender reveal parties,
Right.
a friggin' pink flare goes off, and guess what? All of California just burns to the ground.
California burns down for 7 weeks.
People dying on the highway because they can't get out of their car, and their cars are filling up with carbon monoxide. The most perfect picture that I've seen that can describe this is that picture of these elite fucking assholes sitting around the table, and the table is a globe. And it's like their little World of Warcraft game, and they're playing it, and that's what they're friggin' doing to us. They're playing us, and I'm honestly convinced, and I hate to get black pill right here. I don't think many more people are going to be coming to their senses about any of this stuff, or not to the level that they should. It's like everybody's kind of happy in their friggin' dreamland. And when they can't get food,
that's when I think that's when people would freak out.
You better be armed and dangerous when people can't get food.
Yeah. And like how scary is the mob these days? I mean scary in their thought process. They're just unthinking morons, and I'm more scared of just the average dumbed down American than I am of like the military rolling in here. Mm-hmm. I don't know that's going to happen, but the mob of morons, or the Antifa mobs and things like that, or the Black Lives Matter, like you better show us the fist, or we're gonna take out this outside of this restaurant and everything. Like, whoa, like these people are dangerous because they are unthinking morons that are LARPing as like revolutionaries, and they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. I mean, this is zombies. Yeah. But wait till the police or somebody starts shooting, and I think they kind of want that. I think the controllers want that. I mean, obviously we saw the brick ferry dropped off the bricks in Minneapolis last summer. Remember, people are like, well, we were just here, and it's like a big thing of bricks, and everyone's like,
they did it here in Manchester, New Hampshire too.
Did they really?
Pallets of bricks were in the street because there were plans for an Antifa BLM
riot.
We're gonna call it a riot. Let's call it what it is. In Manchester, New Hampshire. You know what ended up happening? Everybody that these people make fun of on the internet, calling them Meal Team 6 and all these clowns, ended up showing up downtown and put a friggin' end to it all. It never went any further. And the bricks went away, and then they tried to say, oh, the bricks were there because they were going to be repaving the sidewalk. Bullshit.
But then they were gone, and the sidewalk was never done. So
exactly.
Right.
It's like, come on.
That's what's so frustrating, because we see that and we go, this is orchestrated.
Yeah.
And then, but there are some people that you can like grab their head and show them the bricks, and they just
right over their head.
My wife is like that. My wife does. She kind of sees it, but doesn't see it. And she's the type of person that I would be sitting on the couch with her, and she'll look at me and be like, "Hey, did you know that Stevie Wonder's not blind?" But then in the same breath say, "Oh, I think the vaccine's going to be okay. I think I'm going to get it, and let's do it." It boggles my mind, man. How's your wife do with all this, and you getting into what you're into and everything?
So when I wrote the Octopus book, I didn't tell anybody. I wrote it in total secrecy. Nobody, not one person knew. And when she found it, a box got delivered to the house. The first batch of books showed up at the house, and I wasn't there to intercept it. She opened the box and found all these books. She's like, "What is that?" And flipped it over and saw my face on the back. She called me up and threw me out of the house for 2 days because she said I was emotionally cheating on her. And I was like, I wrote a book, I wrote a book. I didn't like.
What is it? 500 pages?
540 pages. I mean, The big ass book. All right. I mean, to be fair, but in my defense, I was like, look, I could have had like a secret family in Utah, right? Like as far as things to get pissed off at your husband about him doing behind your back, writing a book, not the worst thing. And she was like, yeah, I get it. But so I don't think it was real to her that anybody gave a shit about this until we were in London in the summer of 2019 on her work stuff. She had a work trip there and I wound up going with her, with our whole family and everything. And I had a guy in London who does a show on RT called Renegade Inc. And it's filmed in like a legit studio and it's on real television and everything. And he had invited me to be on the show, but I was like, he's like, if you're ever in London, I'm like, well, I'm never in London. But then I was like, oh dude, actually I am going to be in London. So you want to schedule it? And so after they came in and saw that, like me getting interviewed on like a real set in a television studio and all that, I think it made it a little bit more real to them. They don't really understand it and don't really care all that much to understand it. My wife has like zero interest in this. So I don't really talk about it too much with them. Yeah. That's why I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to talk about it with you guys, because otherwise I'll just be talking to myself like a maniac, but
some of your best episodes are you going off just ranting.
Oh, thanks.
I appreciate it, man.
Well, that's how I get it out of my system, right? Because
it's therapeutic to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, are we going to figure it all out and solve all the problems? No, probably not. But you've got to at least start thinking about some of them and thinking about these topics. And then if you do, then that's the first step towards doing something about it. So I'll always, take the opportunity to try and talk about this because, I was inspired by like the Alex Joneses and David Icke's and everything. I watched a lot of their stuff and it opened my eyes to this. And then I felt like I can see a little bit more of the truth of what's happening. And to me, that's important. Some people don't care. Some people don't care what the truth is. They do their thing and they operate in their little system, their little world. And whatever happens they don't care. I care. I take it personally that I'm being lied to by the government and the media and the pharmaceutical industry and the banks. And I don't appreciate that. And so I get frustrated. I want to make sure that they don't do that to us anymore. And so that's why I talk now. So am I going to have success? Who knows? How would we ever quantify what we do with podcasts and things like that? You don't know if someone watched your last show and it planted something in their head and they couldn't get it out and they started thinking about it and it changed the way they see the world. You'll never know that. But I feel like if we just at least talk and have the conversation, that it might build on someone, over time. You never know what's going to fully wake you up. But, and maybe it's COVID for a lot of people. Maybe this is maybe all the people that laughed at us and said, you conspiracy theorists, are now going, you know what? This story doesn't add up. I feel like they're lying to us about something. And wouldn't that be the greatest thing to come out of this psychological operation? That if they overplay their hand and act so ridiculous, like with the 3 masks and the anal swabs, that a bunch of people just go, wait a second, no, none of this shit is. They're lying about everything. It's not just this. Whoa, holy shit, they're lying about the whole thing. They're making it up as they go along. And we're just sitting there going, welcome to our world.
Now you're awake. There really people that believe like, all right, I'm not going to have a 4th of July this year because of COVID. Like Biden said that we might not be able to have 4th of July. Like maybe we shouldn't do that. Like, are people really like thinking like that?
The people that I think a lot of the people that think like that are good, nice people. And they see this as their duty to not exacerbate this gigantic problem. And if by not going and having the picnic, they're doing something, they're contributing, they're saving, they're helping, they're saving grandma. You want to kill grandma. I'm saving grandma, and so it gives them a purpose and it gives them a reason, but it's not, but I don't respect that, because what I want them to do is open their eyeballs to what's going on and recognize that they're part of a gigantic psychological operation that is designed to screw with them, and that this thing is not adding up, not in the way that they said it was going to. There's a lot of holes in the story, and I want people to get mad about it, because it's the only way stuff like this is going to change. And it's frustrating, because I've had to, you guys might, I wonder if you feel the same way. Like, there's only so much energy and time that I have, and I can't invest it on people that I'm interacting with that don't want to know, that just actively don't want to know.
There's some that just can't be saved.
Yeah. I got to prioritize my effort. But it's like, if someone reaches out to me and says, I'm pro-vaccine, but you're making some good points about this, and I have questions, and I'll talk to them all day. I'll answer their email. I'll answer all that. I'll do whatever. But I'm not going to waste my time with people that want to tell me, that I'm a conspiracy theorist for this. Yep. It's like, look, if you're unwilling or unable to do any of the research yourself, and you're just going to tell me that I'm wrong because you watched CNN and you think you know what's going on, like, I can't get worried about that person, and I can't invest my effort in that, because that's somebody that doesn't want to believe anything else. So good luck to you. Take the vaccine, enjoy your Bell's palsy, or whatever. Yeah. But don't ever,
and your heart stops.
Yeah. Don't ever say that you weren't warned. You know what I mean? Because you were there's a whole bunch of people out there that are willfully ignorant of what's happening. And it's not conspiracy theory. There is some of that, to be fair. There's a lot of speculation in some of this, but it's not speculation to say that the pharmaceutical companies that are making the vaccines are all convicted felons. Mm-hmm. They've all been convicted of things like faking tests, racketeering, fraud, conspiracy. They've all been found guilty of this. This is not theoretical. This is factual. This is what has actually happened. And people say, well, I'm going to trust the science. All right, well, do whatever you need to do, but just understand that the science that you're trusting is being run by convicted felons that have paid billions of dollars in fines. So
now what's aggravating is they say we're going to trust the science, but they're trusting that bot science. They're not going and seeing these other doctors that are out there saying, hey, this is what the vaccine really is, and it's a programming system, and they're injecting it into you. And I don't know if it was your tweet or someone put a tweet out there that it was a 20-minute video. It might have been Ricky, a 20-minute video of a doctor giving this lecture about it, and he broke it all down, and it was absolutely amazing. And I don't know why people can't watch that with an open mind. Is it a comfort thing or what?
Yeah.
It's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because, if you get, I'm willing to have conversations with people or debates, not arguments, but it's like, if you can just get them to, acknowledge that there is a long track record of fraud in that industry. And then explain to them that, the vaccine industry as a whole has paid out more money to settle damage claims,
Mhm.
even though you can't sue them, even though they have immunity from lawsuits. They still run it through this VAERS court, vaccine adverse effects reporting system. And what that does is it's like a kangaroo court where nothing gets approved. But even though nothing gets approved, the amount that has been approved, $4.2 billion, is more money that the vaccine industry has paid out than the Catholic Church has paid to settle rape claims around the world for all their priests. And we know how big of a huge problem that is. So what I'm saying is that the vaccine industry payout is secretive. Like barely anybody knows about it. So a lot of people make this assumption that if these vaccines, just regular vaccines, and I'm not even talking about the new COVID ones, but just if the regular vaccines were so dangerous, clearly I would hear about this on my nightly news. That's sort of the thought. And since I don't hear about them on my nightly news, it must not be a real thing. That's the assumption they make, but they don't realize that the pharmaceutical industry pays, it's responsible for 60% of the ad revenue of these television networks. So they're
all in it together.
They can't say anything bad about it, or there goes billions of dollars right out the door. So when we're interacting with people that, we know about the questions about these vaccines, and you're dealing with somebody that has no idea about it, you don't have to get technical with them. You can just talk about some of these things that they probably don't know, and ask them, hey, if you were selling a product that was so safe, why would you need the federal government in 1986 to give you indemnify you against lawsuits from people? Doesn't that seem strange to you? And they'll go, well, yeah, I guess it does seem kind of strange. Like, why? Like, if you can't make a better product, why are you getting government protection? And that's when the vaccine schedule exploded. And then right along with that, that's when the autism epidemic exploded. Yeah. And people say, you can't connect those two, dude. I've got some mothers that I know that can connect them 100%. Who
ADHD too? That exploded out of the kid is on Ritalin now because they can't sit still in class. It's crazy. Yeah.
I know. Well, they just say it's ADD anyway. Like they don't even try to diagnose. Yeah, just take some Ritalin, you'll be fine.
Ritalin. Yeah.
Right. You take some speed for kids, and that'll be good for you. Yeah. But if you point that out, and that's true, and if you point that out to somebody, they might go, I don't know. It's like, let's just all be honest that the pharmaceutical industry is in the business of sickness. They're in the business of keeping you sick, not making you healthy. If they make you healthy, they lose a customer. It is against their best interest to make you too healthy. So we have a really crazy sort of system at play here. And I think people just need to be honest about that. And it might be the first time anyone's ever really, thought about it that way. But it's true that if you can't make the wristwatch too good, or it'll never break, and they'll never need to buy another one from you. You know what I mean? So the functional obsolescence is built into American industry, and unfortunately, it's built into the pharmaceutical industry too. And they want us to be a little bit broken. And so, not dead from the vaccines, just broken, so that they can constantly treat you and keep you in the system. So this is stuff that people don't want to accept. They don't want to think like that, because to know that is to know, like, oh, I'm buying pills from maybe the worst people on the planet. But it's like, that's their business model. Like, I'm not making it up. That's why they make money. That's how they make money.
That aspirin you take, that's the same company that made the gift gas that exterminated the Jews,
Yeah.
Well, isn't Bayer's connected with Monsanto too, right? So
they merged.
Connected with Monsanto.
Yeah, they merged, and that was that's just like the epitome of what we were talking about, like large corporations becoming even bigger and getting governmental protection. I mean, you have two of the worst companies in the world coming together and forming one big company, and that being allowed to happen. It's all disgusting and frustrating that that in this country we allow that stuff to happen because we do things like pass laws like Citizens United, which allows corporations to donate as much money as they want to political campaigns. It's like, well, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, I know the politicians why they wanted that to happen, so they could just get easy money, but like now it's just fully run by the corporations. It is, and it's so obvious for anybody that has the eyes to see it, you know?
And why would a pharmaceutical company want to get in with a company that makes weed killer? You know what I mean? Like what are you gaining here?
Well, what I discovered is that they're all in the poison business.
Yeah.
Well, all the
I
medication,
guess they are the same.
All the medication we take is a byproduct of petroleum anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, if they own the weed killer company that makes the plants that they're making the medicines with, it's just one big giant cycle, and they keep it all in the family.
Yeah, they do, and it all works to lower us physically, you know, or mentally too, to chemically poison us. I mean, there's glyphosate lawsuits that are happening all over the place. I mean, you can see the infomercials for them. Have you been injured? You know, call us. We're doing class action lawsuits against. I mean, and you know, and there would be the same sort of ads against vaccine makers if they hadn't gotten the law changed in '86. I mean, it'd be the same thing. It'd be like, have you been damaged by the MMR vaccine? Exactly.
Yeah, we got a guy locally here, James Sokolov. He's always on in between like Jerry Springer and Maury Povich, peddling his law.
I think is this the asbestos?
The mesothelioma, there's a big mesothelioma and a big lawsuit with that. And if you worked on like the docks on the Charlestown Pier or something like that, you may have been exposed to mesothelioma. So call us at 1-800-GET-FUCKED. Right. What's scary too about this is this vaccine passport. And what I wonder about the vaccine passport is if the vaccine makers, these pharmaceutical companies, have no way of getting in trouble, I guess, or no way of anybody suing them if this vaccine screws you up. If you have a vaccine passport and these airlines, schools, whoever is going to, Ticketmaster is going to make you be vaccinated, can they be held liable, I wonder, if something does happen with that vaccine? And hey, I wanted to see that concert, so I got the vaccine because you wouldn't let me in otherwise. They could end up setting themselves up for a real good screwing in the future.
That's a really good question because I have a buddy that works at Ticketmaster, worked at high-ranking guys there, and they're doing this, talking about this vaccine passport, and it's disgusting and it's unconstitutional, and you can't. I mean, it's going to wind up in court like crazy, but the government saying we're not going to mandate it. We're not going to have. Well, yeah, you're just going to have because you can't. You're going to have the corporations do it, and you're going to make it not mandated, but you're just going to make it so that it's impossible for you to go anywhere. You can't get on a plane, or you can't do this or that. I mean, once again, us conspiracy theorists were saying this a year ago. You know that this was coming, and as soon as this stuff broke out, it's like we can we're not, like reading tea leaves or anything. It's obvious if you know what the plan is and you know what the agenda is, and you just work backwards. And this is of course something that they're going to do. And it's much more devious than just vaccine passports too, because once you tie the social credit system into that and internet ID card and things like that, then you've got a full lockdown on people. Hey, you don't play ball, you don't get your vaccines, we'll just switch off your internet ID. Now you can't get online, you can't check your email, you can't do your banking, you can't be on Zoom. I mean, that's coming. Yep. That's what they want. And so they want full compliance. Yeah. Full compliance. It's not about, it's not about a virus. It's not about keeping you safe. It's about, they're using that just like they used terrorism in the early 2000s as the reason to be able to do the things they want to do. Go into Afghanistan, go into Iraq. So it's all about terror. Well, they want to lock you down digitally. They want to spy on you. They want to inject you with an operating system, as Moderna calls it. Well, guess what? They just run right behind COVID And they just use that as the excuse to do all of these crazy things. And the American public is just clapping like this. Thank you. Take away all my rights because I'm a dumb sheeple person. I mean, it's embarrassing, but it's like, it's right in front of your face if you want to see it. But it's just a powerful force when people don't want to pay attention, then they just are, they're just blind to it and comfortable in their ignorance. And it's frustrating.
How did you hook up with Jeff Berwick on the second book?
Oh,
the book I'm reading, and I don't want to make it sound like it was negative that I said the print was too small. Literally 2 days after I had a prescription given to me for glasses that I haven't filled because they're progressive lenses and I'm in denial that I actually need them, the octopus showed up and I go, oh, fuck, I really do need those glasses. So,
the octopus print is
if it was 5 years ago, I would have had it read by then. But talk a little bit about the second book while we got you on.
Yeah. I was on his podcast, the Anarchast, in 2018, and I was promoting the Octopus Book, and then we got done recording, and we were talking afterwards, and he said it's all coming down. And I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He's like, the system, the banking system, it's all coming down. And we just started talking for a while. And then he said, we should work on something together. Do you want to write a book together? And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And he said, I have an idea. I'll send it over to you. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, all right. And then I said, I have an idea based on our conversation. When he said it's all coming down, it made me think like a building, like a controlled demolition, like Building 7. And so I wrote it out. And I said, Jeff, what if we did this? What if we made the comparison between the way you take down an actual building, identify support columns, pre-weaken the building, rig the detonators, sound the alarm bell, push down the plunger, clear the debris, all that stuff. What if we did that and use that as a metaphor for how you take down an empire, how you would pre-weaken it with things like NAFTA, which is like, a 30-year fuse you light that just guts the middle class and outsources 50,000 factories to Asia. It just slowly disintegrates your country. What if we made that comparison? And I wrote this whole thing. I was in Costa Rica at the time, and I wrote this whole thing out. And he just sent me one line back. I like your idea better. Let's do it. So nice. That's how it started. And I started working on it in the summer of 2018 and wanted it to be out at Anarchapulco February 2020. And it just wasn't done. Jeff had a bunch of parts that he still wanted to do, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. And then 3 weeks after that, COVID kicked off. And I was like, dude, we should wait and see what happens. And he's like, yeah, let's wait. So we waited till August. And then I said, I think I've seen enough. What about you? He said, yeah, I've seen enough. Let's write the last part and wrap it up. And so that's what we did. And it came out in the Friday before the election.
Yeah. Everything's so current in it. It's awesome.
I'm glad too. In retrospect, I wanted it to come out in February at Anarchapulco, and that would have been the worst time because so much changed after that. And also when you're talking about the destruction of the American empire back in, say, 2019, people are like, yeah, maybe. But if you're doing it the tail end of 2020 after we went through, everyone's like, oh yeah, oh, it's coming. Like it was way easier for people to sort of imagine that. So the timing was good, and we kept it current. With COVID, we went back and sort of infused that throughout the book. We didn't have we knew that there would be something to kick off a financial crisis. We still believe there's a massive financial crisis coming, but we didn't. I didn't predict it was going to be a virus. That was that. I'm not that much of a psychopath to be able to predict that. But these guys did.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. I hate Zoom. I'm sorry.
I always have questions, and I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, go. No, ask. Go for it.
Do you think though, like there's another financial crisis coming? I mean, it's inevitable, right? Housing, I don't know what's going to happen. Do you think that this is the financial crisis and they're pumping money back into their companies based on this vaccine, based on all the ventilators that they made, thousands and thousands and thousands of ventilators? Where the hell's that money coming from? Someone's paying those companies that made those, and we all know that it's, just a handful of companies running all this stuff. Could this be them hiding this financial crisis, and then this just gives them a reason to pump inflation in, and the price of the dollar plummets, and I mean, they could just be doing a good job covering it all up, and it isn't a pandemic, it's a financial freaking collapse right now.
Yeah, well, it's funny because this is what happened to the Soviet Union. They didn't have a pandemic, but they did have their currency getting manipulated by outside forces. They had politicians stealing everything that wasn't nailed down, and they had all the politicians' buddies. They started privatizing things and giving it to them, turning them into oligarchs. And then, so they were looting the place right before it fell. And that's what it looks like inside America. The Fed is printing trillions of dollars. It's like they're just using it to buy whatever, convert it into assets as fast as you can, because the value of the dollar is dropping. In 2020, let me rephrase it. Right now, today, 40% of all dollars that are in existence were printed last year out of the total money supply. That is a recipe for hyperinflation. It's like they've just been given the signal. Just spend it. Just spend. Give it to our buddies. Biden's coming out with a infrastructure plan. He's coming out with, more and more of the, he just said today, he's going to give 870 billion more to the military to make up for the cost of inflation. They're just buying whatever they can get their hands on, because they know it's coming down. I mean, and when you see Bitcoin jump like it did, that's an acknowledgement by the people that understand Bitcoin that they want nothing to do with the US dollar. They want out of that system. They want into something that doesn't have the ability to be counterfeited like that. And so they're getting out of that. And I would expect silver and gold to explode as well, as people decide they want tangible assets, not US dollars. And so I fear hyperinflation, and I don't want it. Obviously, I live here like you guys do. It's not what I want, but it's like at some point it just becomes a math problem. Like if you create 40% of the money in 1 year, and then the following year, you start talking about trillions and trillions more dollars and all this spending and everything. Where does that money come from? You print more of it from the Fed. This is how you get hyperinflation. It's not emotional. It's just math. Mm-hmm. That's how it starts. And once it starts, then it takes off. So that's why you go from $1,000 to buy a loaf of bread to $1 billion to buy a loaf of bread in a month. That's how it goes in Zimbabwe. It goes straight up. So people, and look, I have no faith in Americans after what we saw in 2020, people fighting over toilet paper and knocking old ladies out at Best Buy on Black Friday and stuff like that. What do you think is going to happen when the currency is hyperinflated and people don't know what to do? I mean, it's going to be chaos. So, that's something that's not an unrealistic prediction either. I mean, that's a very logical prediction. It's a horrible one, but it's based on logic. So it's
probably 3 to 5 years.
I mean, maybe not even that. They could it seems like everything is like they've been given the word, just start looting. Just go. Just everything, just buy, corporations buying back their own shares, pumping their stock up and things like everything's fake, everything's fraudulent. And they're America, like the media and the government is saying everything in America in the economy is fine. Look at Wall Street. They're doing great. It's like, that's not America. That's corporate America, but that's not America. The rest of America is fucking terrified of what's happening and unable to pay bills and unable to, prevent, have emergency funding. I mean, people, I don't know what the stat was, that how few people have even $400 to manage through an emergency. So this is not good. This is a recipe for disaster. And it's like, I think people should maybe take advantage of this time that they have, the sort of calm before the storm, to kind of get your shit in order, start thinking about what you're going to do if these things happen. I mean, look, hopefully it doesn't happen and it just becomes a thought experiment that you do, but really, where are you going to go and what are you going to do? And do you have food? And I'm not trying to freak people out, but like, like we owe the preppers an apology, right? After last year, they're kind of right, for a lot of this stuff. So maybe we should take advantage of this downtime and get ourselves ready for what may be coming.
Yeah, I got my buckets of my Patriot Supply through your
Oh,
link.
good.
Yeah,
man.
I got four buckets in there right now, so I plan on buying a couple more. I want to make sure we got at least 3 months of that dry stuff, and then whatever we have in stock. But yeah, man,
it's a smart thing to do, and it makes and people go, you look crazy doing that. Yeah, you look crazy until you look like the genius when you're the one that has the food. And look, what is our role? Our role is to take care of ourselves, take care of our family, and things like that. It's like, if you listen to this crazy shit that we're talking about, and you don't take the additional step of acting on this stuff and preparing as if, and then what good is listening to all this crazy Alex Jones shit if you're not actually prepared for what's coming? He's talking, we're in World War IV, and he's yelling about all this stuff. And if you're listening to that sort of material, then maybe also get yourself prepared. Like, get yourself some food, get yourself some gold and silver. And I don't know, I'm not a big gun guy, but a lot of people, are get yourself some ammo, get yourself some guns, like act as if, and because you'd rather be, a month early than a day late, I guess, when it comes to that stuff.
We had a couple on last week. It was Brian and Karen Weissman, and they moved she worked for Merck, and I think he did too. Mm-hmm. And she was a chemical engineer for them. They dropped everything and they moved to this town called Worcester, Vermont, and they started their own mushroom cultivation business. And they went from selling mushrooms at farmers markets and to restaurants to taking her medical background and actually extracting the good stuff out of the mushroom, all the medicinal properties, and selling it in tinctures and powders and whatnot. And they were telling us a story about how their little neighborhood operates, or their town, and there's only about 700 people in their town, that she was saying. And they were growing, and this was one of his favorite stories too, they were growing asparagus, and they had all this asparagus, and up the street for them lives these people that own a cheese making factory. They're cheesemakers.
Well, like famous,
like world renowned, gold medals, blue ribbons on their cheeses. And they came over with a bunch of cheese because they wanted some asparagus. And that's how they do business in their town. Everybody grows stuff and does stuff for one another. And then they all have their little side projects, like the mushroom business, where they have the website and you can buy the mushrooms. The cheese people are going all over the world pumping their cheese. But they live in a small little community, and they trade and they barter, and they're taking care of one another. They all know how to preserve their own food. They all know what to do if shit hits the fan. And we all need to do that.
So smart.
Part of what we want to do with this podcast is kind of spread that too. So as the weather gets warmer, end of the month, I have a buddy that I work with that has his own bee farm. So we're going to go to his bee farm and we're going to film it and do a podcast with him. So we're hoping to kind of move into that direction of homesteading and self-sufficiency and basically the resistance. While everyone's eating their Soylent Green, we're sucking down some nice asparagus and award-winning cheese. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's kind of an old way of thinking about stuff, but it has a real place, especially now. A lot of people are leaving big cities and saying, I don't want to be anywhere near, when the zombie apocalypse comes, I don't want to be there. And they're having to sort of get back to what made America, right? It just a lot of people kind of working together in like the the small towns that all, everybody knew each other and everybody interacted with each other. Like there's some value in that, a lot of value actually in getting back to that. And I think that, yeah, you'll be the only ones eating while everyone else is just like, twitching and, eating their GMO tomatoes and growing a third arm.
Impossible estrogen.
What are people going to do when there's no food? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's going to be mass panic.
Yeah. Everyone's probably, after like 3 weeks, you'll start to see people like, okay, I've eaten the last, can of macaroni and cheese that I had. And now it's like, okay, where's that little old lady down the hall? I might have to kick her door in and go
take her food.
Yeah.
Take all her food, I mean, you hate to think that, but like I think it could devolve pretty quickly. I mean, we're savages on Black Friday, just at Best Buy,
over a TV.
You see some, you'll knock some lady out to get a TV. It's not a recipe for success. Plus you add in like fluoride and all that and all the zombie pre-programming, and it may very well be a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and people wonder too why they're censoring stuff like what we're doing. Why Ricky has 2 strikes on YouTube, why James Corbett just got pulled from YouTube. Well, we got a strike on one of our videos for something we did on someone from your neck of the woods, Mr. Marvin Heemeyer and his Killdozer. We had a little.
Oh, we got a strike for that?
Yeah, we got a strike for that. Yeah, no.
Right.
Yep, we got a strike for that. So
yeah, well, I just interviewed Jeremy Kaufman from Library yesterday.
Yeah, New Hampshire guy, right?
Yeah,
Library is based out of New Hampshire. Yeah.
Yep. And he's talking about their lawsuit with the SEC is going after them, and it's like anything that's good and decent and right and running the right way, they just have to get in there and fuck with it.
Yep.
And it's so frustrating. And he was just, I saw Jeremy speak in Mexico, and he's been on my group podcast before, so we kind of know each other a little bit, but. So he was kind of letting his guard down. I mean, you could see how frustrated he was with it. He's like, they won't give us an answer on what we've done wrong. They're suing us, but they won't tell us what we've done wrong. We're supposed to like guess. And so, and when you say that to someone, they go, oh, that can't really be true. I mean, his episode will be out on Sunday, and I encourage people to watch it or listen to it. He's explaining that they don't know what they've done wrong. They haven't told them exactly what it is they've done wrong, except that they think that, and he's even saying, I'll settle. Just tell me how much you want me to pay and what you say I've done wrong, and we can settle this. And they're like, no.
Gone.
From what I understand of it, it's so when we post on Library too and Odyssey, and when you post on Odyssey and when you look on the site at different videos, you get crypto or some sort of like tokens to interact on the site, right? The more you look at it, the more you get. You can't redeem it for cash. So what the hell is the SEC getting involved for? It's basically something set up as like a fun thing to incentivize the site and to post and to look and to go there instead of going to YouTube. And that's why they want to freaking get rid of it.
They don't like the blockchain component of it. They don't like they don't like that they can't control it.
Yeah.
They don't like and so they have to compromise it. They have to try to compromise it. I'm not saying Library is compromised. I'm saying that the SEC, I mean, what they're doing is lawfare. They're trying to drain them financially and pull their attention and resources, both financial and mental and emotional, away at fighting a battle against them instead of using that time and money and effort to improve their product and get the message out to more people. So it's shitty. It's shitty. And that's what the government does from time to time when they feel that they're losing control of the situation. They use their monopoly on authority to make your lives hell. If you get, and it doesn't even have to be that you're doing anything wrong. I mean, especially when you're not doing anything wrong, it could just be that a bigger corporation is close friends with the government and you are muscling in on their turf and they don't like that. So they make your life difficult, which is probably what's happening to Library. So it's, there's just so much corruption out there, and it's frustrating that people are willfully ignorant of it. And I like to support these companies that are fighting the good fight. I'm on Library too, or Odyssey, which is the
same thing. Yeah.
The Library, he said, is the parent company and the technology, and Odyssey is the video platform. But they've got live streaming now, so
cool. Yeah, I know Float does live streaming too. Yeah, that might be a good idea to do an Odyssey live stream. I would love to do something like that. I might take you up on your offer in the beginning there and get his contact information. So it's got New Hampshire ties, and we're trying to keep it all, in New Hampshire too, except for a few, you obviously we needed to get you on. So, so grateful you said, yes.
Of course.
I think unless Eric's got anything else for you, I don't want to keep you any longer, and we'll wrap this up.
I got one more question. So do we make it out of this?
Yeah, let's end this on
you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the future, does evil actually win, or do we somehow make it through?
I feel like they have a tendency to overplay their hands a little bit. And I think that the way 9/11 woke up a generation of people to what the government has the capability of doing, I think that this will wake up a new generation of people to it. The question is, can we wake up people fast enough, at a rate that stays ahead of like this sloping IQs of the nation, as everyone's getting sort of dumbed down, and the messages and the content is just more for like just a dumbed down audience. We're gonna need all hands on deck if we're gonna get out of this. I tend to think that goodness prevails in situations like this, but I think it's important for us to not underestimate just how diabolical these people are, and that they don't want what's best for us, and that they view us as taking up too much space on their planet. And when you know that that's how they think about you, then you know that they're in a position, that they're liable to do something really bad to you, like including depopulation. And so I think it's incumbent upon humanity, or America specifically, since we're talking about that, to be better about processing this information and waking up to what's actually happening. Like the population needs to take some responsibility for themselves. Yes, the government is screwing with us, and they're making everything increasingly more difficult, and they're criminals. But we need to sort of take responsibility for our own actions too, and make sure that we're educated about this, and make sure that we're waking people up as much as we can, and that we don't allow them to steamroll us, because they will push us as far as they can push us. And my fear is that a lot of people are just compliant, and they're just going to go along to get along. And what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one day and all of your rights are gone, and you're living in this digital prison, and you never noticed that you were there, like handing them the bricks to build this prison around you. So it's like, I'm optimistic, but we need to hurry up.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I would wrap it up.
I think that's an awesome way
that's a great way
end it there. Why don't you tell us where our listeners, and I'm sure they know where already, but where they can find you?
Well, the audio version of the podcast, Macroaggressions, goes out on Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio and all those places.
Yep, and we'll link it. Yep.
The video version goes out to David Icke's video platform, Iconic. It goes to Rockfin, it goes to Odyssey, and it goes to YouTube for as long as I'm allowed to be on YouTube. Yep. They dinged me for a David Icke video, no surprise. So I've been doing a lot of stuff on Rockfin because they're more protective of us, and they have set up a system that works a little bit better than what we're experiencing at YouTube. So
do you think that they'll open up the floodgates and let people just sign up instead of it seems like it's a very selective process to get on Rockfin?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing it. I think they're trying to grow it slowly, so that their infrastructure can sustain it, because they're doing something. They're doing something similar. I mean, they've got a crypto component as well in there. So I'm sure they're keeping an eye on Library to see what's happening there. It wouldn't surprise me if the feds went after Rockfin for something, not because they're doing anything wrong, but just because they are doing something right. Actually, so I don't know what they're going to do as far as opening up for shows. But my guess is that I've talked to some of the people there, and they're real bright. So my guess is that they know what they're doing and maybe growing at a rate that's reasonable for them.
Good. Hopefully they succeed and nobody goes after them, and
yeah,
we got places to put our content up. It's getting crazy out there. Yeah,
it is. It's frustrating.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to talk to some like-minded people that are frustrated with the situation and enthusiastic about doing what we can do to sort of try and fix it. I love it.
Awesome,
so, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, no problem, Charlie.
Thank you. Pleasure is ours, man.
Anytime you want to do it again.
Right on. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
see ya.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.